Coach Vitello.
Tony, how proud are you of your team? That not I guess a real gritty win is one way to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to them, that's kind of the approach they've had. Throughout the year, they were challenged early in the fall to show that they kind of had that, and this sport has so many repetitions that pile up. I think I said it last night. I don't think you can judge an individual or a group or the team in itself just based off one day or one thing or anything like that. So it'll be something they can hang their hat on in that category for sure. But I would say more proud of Kirby than anything. Not that there wasn't a lot of guys doing stuff, but that was the ultimate sign of some grit there.
Talk about Kirby Cannell, just your thoughts on his outing. 94 pitches career high, 5 innings career high.
Yeah, I mean, to come in and pitch with the courage he did when the game was kind of chaotic for both teams, the wind was doing different stuff, and both teams have good offenses, and we lost last night in a fashion that no one's proud of, so you add all that in, and then a couple breaks, they're not going to go your way no matter who you are, but don't go his way. And then the biggest thing is he was out of gas at the end, physically, but mentally, and again, courage, you call grit if you want. He's got a full tank almost at all times. So it would have been fun to leave him out there, for his sake to see how things would have went. But again, he was out of gas for a while. So there's a lot you can say about that outing. And all we said to the team out there was, to me, it's no coincidence that the very definition of a teammate, Trey Lipscomb, gets his first major league hit today. And then Kirby was able to kind of, again, have an outing that he can hang his hat on here.
Blake ties the home run record for the Vols program. Just what has allowed him to get to 40 throughout these years in a Tennessee uniform?
I think, he's gifted with some ability. I know his swing's been compared to a bunch of different people. But, the interesting thing, recruiting is a whole nother topic, especially this weekend. But when you do go out recruiting and scouting, I remember distinctly some guys that were in his category, which is a pretty good category, but there's a lot of other guys. And some are still doing elite things, and others, aren't having as much success as him. And I think it happens in here, in the cage. So I guess my point is he's real gifted, but I think he's a better worker than he is player as far as skill set. There's plenty of skill there for him to make it all the way to the big leagues, but it's been refined by a big-time work ethic, and then also like a will to win that is pretty special. We talked about it, I think, with the TV crew that did today's game. They were asking about him, and that will to win is something I wish we could bottle up and keep here for a long, long time. But again, you bring up names like Trey Lipscomb. Blake kind of has that same will.
Tony, how impressive is it for Dylan to just come through in big moments time after time?
Yeah, he's got a little bit of David Ortiz in him, if that's the right guy or the right way to describe it. And again, I think ability is there, but also I think he seems to kind of want to be in those situations and is able to keep calm. He's got a lot more fire in him than I think people realize at times. But I think he does a good job of keeping that calm that you have to have when, today that crowd got pretty loud. I mean, that was it's a sidebar topic, but last night was one of our best crowds we've had because we've expanded the stadium and the weather finally turns a little bit. But tonight's crowd, I don't know, it seemed to be bigger in number and it was louder, regardless of what results were going on. So it was nice. He was able to keep calm when the crowd was going, crazy, and then he made them go more crazy.
What led you to go to Dalton Barger there in the 5th inning, and obviously it paid off?
Yeah, no, it did. I think, just kind of a matchup thing there, but also it's been frustrating to sit there and kind of not have free reign at using him because he's so gifted. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out he can help us win ball games in a variety of ways. Playing third base, he's played right field, he's DH'd, and eventually will catch. But he's just been sore. And sometimes I do think, I hope it doesn't sound corny or cocky or anything, but I do think our support staff does a crazy job of looking after these guys, and part of that is trying to make sure we don't put them in harm's way, and I think he's hopefully kind of over that thing and able to kind of run around freely.
Touched on it a little bit, but just how strong of a mental game does it take for Dylan to constantly be able to step up in those big moments, and how have you seen that develop within him? Yeah,
I think the develop part is him just being comfortable in his own skin, which you come in a new environment. He's from smack middle of Kansas, and you come over to Tennessee, and then all of a sudden you're dropped in the middle of SEC games and things like that. You got to realize that you belong here. And the best way for you to thrive, not just belong, is to be who you are, stay true to your roots of what got you here. And he's always been a successful hitter, and he's made himself a better version of a hitter with his work in the weight room. The kids, him and Reese Chapman are close buddies. Those two guys have increased their physicality greatly. And you can see in their dugout and our dugout, it's almost a requirement to have success out there. So, at the end of the day, I think it's just him being himself, but that's easier said than done. There's freshmen all over the country right now that are trying to find that missing link of being true to who they are.
The team
Obviously,
laid down by 4 runs at one point, and
Thanks for the reminder.
what allowed the offense to really settle in and come through time after time?
Yeah, I don't think you're just asking the question, so not knocking it, but I don't think settle in was the word. I think it was there's a lot of passion, for each other. I mean, it was represented. Coach Barnes' teams obviously wins last night, and they're always so quick to pick guys up off the floor and to coach each other. And when Blake Burke went kind of diving into that camera well, our guys almost had a panic attack, all sprinted over there. So I'm just trying to give you an image from my mind. I do think this group has true passion for competing and playing for one another, which is a key ingredient on a day like today, where you get punched in the gut several times last night and then a big one today, but they just kept going. So I don't think it was ever a fire started, and I don't think there was ever any quit. I think it's just been keep going. And, sometimes the scoreboard shows you a thumbs up, good job, and sometimes it doesn't, but you got to keep going. And again, back to my original statement, I think if anything, they've shown that this year. I think they have that box checked, but reps, you got to do it again, do it again, do it again.
obviously they have a stacked lineup, but from your vantage point, what went wrong for Drew today?
It seemed to be, and I haven't discussed with them, and I haven't even talked with Frank about it. It just kind of seemed to be like some thoughts kind of started to interfere with him executing pitches how he normally does. And he throws so many strikes, he normally gets hit every now and then. You give up some hits. It's like last night, Causey. You go out there enough, you talk about repetitions. I've had the good fortune, the schools I've worked at, it's been, fairly easy to recruit to. I've been around some good pitchers, and almost all of them have had that happen where they kind of get run out of there early. But I think tonight it was without Drew putting his best foot forward, which he's got every piece of the pie you want in the makeup category. But it just kind of seemed to be like something interfered with him executing pitches the way he was capable of, whether it was negative thoughts or, being hung up on a moment that happened in the past or something like that. And so I'm anxious to see how he pitches next weekend, because I think both those guys are guys that we need to realize how lucky we are to have them in Causey and Bean. And I also look forward to the answer that's coming when, there's a little extra determination from this weekend's frustration.
Where are you arms-wise entering tomorrow, and then any update on AJ Russell?
Nothing in specific, because it's with the swelling in there in his arm, nothing's been very clear cut, like this is the answer and this is the amount of time. So hopefully a better answer for you at the end of the day tomorrow, because our training staff and I are going to go over a few guys in the morning. But with pitching, Combs hustled down there and was ready behind Snead. And so he's fresh, and Snead, of course, is going to come to me tomorrow first thing in the morning and say, I want the ball and I'm good and all that stuff. He just has that kind of mentality. And our left-handed pitchers in Loy and Stamos and Dallas and Xander are all available. So we'll kind of let the feel-good or the emotion of the win die down a little bit and start to strategize a little bit. It's kind of nice. It's 2 o'clock instead of 1 o'clock tomorrow. You get that extra hour, and early happy Easter to everybody, especially to those fans that make the decision to watch the game on their phone and sit in the stands, the hoops game that is, sit in the stands here and watch what I think are two of the really dynamic clubs in the nation. I know there's others. It'll be fun to play, a little Sunday ball.
Did you see any difference or get a sense of any difference in this game in terms of preparation compared to yesterday?
Not so much. Maybe a little more loose. But it's hard to. Each day's got its own flavor. It's hard to compare directly because there's so much buildup into the start of a weekend. And again, I think if you're asking if a box is checked on whether the team has a consistent focus and a consistent toughness to them that you want, it is. But execution can vary. That's just nature of the game. So I think it's important our guys start to pay attention. I think we're about halfway through the season. as we get to that mark, they kind of need to know what that version of loose looks like talking about today, loose, but also combined with being focused on the task at hand, because, you know, as fun as it is, it's obviously also pretty intense when you're playing these SEC games. So it's a delicate combo, but it's one I think our guys can look to guys like Blake Burke and Kirby and know what it is and what it's going to take to get it done on the pitch that they've got in front of them.